She wanted somebody who'd done X, and somebody who'd done Y, and somebody who'd done Z, and had approached those people, and once a month or so, she'd call them for a couple of hours and dump her problems on them, listen to their reflected ideas, and then decide for herself what she was going to do. And that is one of those experiences that made me say, yeah, okay, I think I'm starting to see a pattern here. Mm-hmm. There's something going on. So tell me about, first off, what's the difference between coaching and mentoring, if there is any difference at all? And secondly, what should I be looking for in a coach?
Well, yeah, let me actually build on something you talked about earlier. And, I don't want to overplay the metaphor or the illusion, but coach, professional athletes all have coaches. And, for example, I always bring up Lance Armstrong. I'm a big Tour de France fan, and, July is always a horrible month for me because I always stay up way too late watching the Tour. But Lance Armstrong, he's a guy who won 7 tours and eclipsing previous Tour champions. And he was coached by a guy named Chris Carmichael. Now, Chris never won a stage in a Tour de France. Now, why would a guy like Lance Armstrong hire a guy like Chris Carmichael to be his coach? Well, the thing is that what Chris was not trying to be Lance's mentor. Right, so Lance wasn't looking up to Chris Carmichael to be the person who is going to show him all the things he can accomplish. Here, Lance, follow me. This is direction I want to go. Here are the mistakes I made. Follow me. No, it's not what he hired Chris for. He hired Chris to be his mentor. His coach, the guy who's going to help him create a framework. He's first going to help him set the right goals, help him understand what he's trying to accomplish, and then create a framework for achieving those goals. So a training program, a nutrition program, holding him accountable for achieving all those things he wanted to achieve, and driving him to achieving those goals. That's what Chris Carmichael did for Lance. Lance probably had, I'm not the biggest Lance fan in the world, so I don't have his books all over my house, but I'm sure he has folks like Eddie Merckx, who was probably the best bicyclist of all time. He probably has him as his mentor. Or Tiger Woods, for example. Tiger Woods, if you try to hire Tiger Woods to be your coach, pretty sure that his cost per hour would be exorbitantly expensive.
Oh, yeah.
But he could be your mentor. Right, he could be somebody who says, "Look, here's the path I went to. Here's all the training I had to do. So come follow me. I'll set the example for you for where you're trying to go. I can write a book and tell you about lessons learned and down the road. But he's not going to spend every single day holding you accountable for all the actions you need to take in order to become Tiger Woods. He's not going to do that. He simply he can't. You're not going to be able to afford that. But furthermore, he might not even have the skill set to be a coach. So that's the examples I always bring up of the difference between a mentor and a coach. So there are a few people.
Let me cut in real quick. It sounds like a mentor is somebody who has already been where you want to go, and you're going to model yourself after them in some way, a hero.
Yeah, that's how I like to characterize
it. Yeah, I want to be a quarterback. Here's a quarterback who's very successful. I want to be like him. Or
that's right.
Or an executive or whoever. Whereas the coach is not as aspirational, not as example setting. You might have there are gymnastics coaches I've seen who can't even do a push-up.
That's right.
And that's not their job to go out there and be a gymnast. It's to work on a detailed basis, if not day to day, then at least week to week, very short time frame, on things that are relatively tactical. That are you've got your inspiration, you know where you want to go. I'll work with you to set goals, and then I'll work with you on the plan to hit the goal, and I'll work with you on your daily and weekly actual performance to see if it's matching your plan.
That's right, hold you accountable. That's probably the biggest component of all that. The difference between reading a book, reading the E-Myth, and actually implementing it is accountability. Right? The difference between a coach and a book is that a book is just going to sit in your nightstand, and then within a week or so, all your good intentions go away. A coach is going to hold you accountable. Now, they're not going to hold you accountable by taking away your birthday, right? But there's a number of different ways that coaches hold clients accountable. The biggest one is your money. You pay us, so you have skin in the game, and so you're going to try to get value out of that money. And also, for me, I try to use peer groups. So I use my models mostly using CEO retreats. I put a bunch of CEOs into a room. We work through creating a strategic plan together in a roundtable type format. I keep you there all day. I'm going to bring it back 90 days later. And that cohort or that peer group is going to hold you accountable. We're going to pluck on your pride strings. And so those are some of the ways that you hold a client accountable. One of the examples I wanted to bring up just while we were talking was Paul Johnson was the head coach of Navy back from 2001 to 2005, I think 2006. Before he came, Navy was abysmal. Never won more than 3 or 4 games a year. When he showed up, all of a sudden Navy started going to bowl games. Went to 5 bowl games in a row. And Paul Johnson never even played college football. Never played it. But he is by far one of the most successful coaches in the game. And so the bottom line is understanding. You asked me the question about how do you pick a coach, and the key is not that again he or she has been down the road that you're trying to go down. That's not what you're trying to get, because those people then become really expensive. What you're really trying to do is find the person who has the skills and the demonstrated success, or the intellectual property, whatever it is, that can lead you down the path to being successful. Or I don't want to say successful. I want to say achieve the things you're trying to achieve in whatever you're hiring that coach for. So if you're trying to be a triathlete and you're trying to swim, you hire a swim coach. You're trying to be a better golfer, you hire a golf coach. You're trying to be a better business person, you hire a business coach. And so so there's a certain amount of art associated with trying to hire a coach. I still always struggle with what's the best way for me to overcome somebody like Ingar Grev, one of the biggest cynics in the world. How do you get an Ingar Grev to hire a coach? And so there are some things that I still am in the process of discovering what's the best way to overcome that cynicism. And one of them was education. The things I just mentioned to you is understanding that a coach is simply not your mentor. Now, you might be lucky and find both. But in most cases, a coach is just somebody who is an expert on coaching and not necessarily the expert in your field.
You mentioned skill set, that if I hired Tiger Woods, hypothetically, he might not have the skill set to be an effective coach. And I immediately was struck by, what are the skills of a good coach?